And we're back here at 8:07 a.m. 55 degrees in the Hub City, 82 the high today, and no weather for a change is in the forecast. And glad, as always, to have in the studio this morning with us Dr. Lawrence Schovanec, the president of Texas Tech University. How are you?
I'm fine, Dave. Good morning to you. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning.
Well, you're a busy man.
There's been a lot going on.
There hasn't there, though.
But it's good.
How about them Red Raider basketballers?
It's been pretty neat, and all the after effects have been really wonderful. We were in Austin yesterday. Went there with Kirby, Coach Beard, and then four of the players: Davide, Lawrence, Andrew, and who was the first person? Who was the fourth person that went? But anyway, the point was, it was a wonderful experience in Austin. The governor met with them. The speaker came by. Later, they went to the chambers of the lieutenant governor. And I'm really appreciative of what Representative Burrows and Frullo and Senator Perry did to kind of get that put together. They were recognized on the floor of the House and the Senate. But it was just amazing to me, given how busy they are at this time in Austin, how much time they took to greet those players. It was wonderful.
Yeah. You know, along those lines, about honoring the basketball team and for what all they've done for Texas Tech. You know, Matt, we had Randy Christian on, and he went to his city people and asked them, not city people, it was the, anyway, and asked them to put together what the value, how many, according to mentions, that Texas Tech received nationally. And they put a value on that of about $55 million. I mean, if you have to go out and try to buy that kind of publicity. This is such a big deal.
Right.
It is such a big deal. And it's great for Texas Tech, and it's even good for the city of Lubbock.
That's true, Dave. And I've heard various numbers, and I have made this comment before. They said, well, that was worth, $55 million and higher figures. My question is, how do you get your hands on that money? So
Yeah, it's like, let's turn that in. No, well, let me ask you this: have y'all seen still? I know that for a while y'all had upticks in registrations or in applications for Texas Tech. Are y'all still seeing an uptick in that?
That effect is probably not as great as the impression might have been created. In our enrollment report on Friday last week, we're in a little over 25,000 applications. That's about 1,000 more than a year ago, but we were trending upwards even before the tournament began. I think there'll be a cumulative effect, and this will continue. This is the so-called Flutie effect. It goes back to when Boston College won that game when he made that last-second pass against Miami, I think it was. And it's been studied, and it seems like that effect is more pronounced as it relates to football. And so, but nevertheless, in terms of the visibility of university, as I hear from other people around the country, and as the examples you've already mentioned, it is wonderful, and it's worth a lot. Yeah. And you saw that very vividly yesterday when we were down in Austin. So it was a great time. I had a chance to visit with the governor and lieutenant governor and the speaker and other members of our delegation, and we remain optimistic about the vet school. And there's still consideration going on in the Senate, but we're very encouraged. And that's probably all I don't want to say something to mess that up, so I'll just keep it right there.
So let me ask you this. There was you've had a couple of huge contracts. We'll start with Kirby Holcutt. I mean, he's been doing an amazing job as athletic director. We've seen athletics, not just basketball, baseball, the big ones that you see, but Texas Tech athletics has been across the spectrum, been doing an amazing job under Kirby Holcutt.
That's right, Matt. And I think our response in addressing the contract of Coach Beard and then our athletic director also sends a message that we're not going to be poached of our talent, and that we can play at a very high level.
And Beard's the fifth highest paid in all of NCAA, right?
It's something like that. And similarly for Kirby, Kirby had been very proactive in trying to address Beard's contract, even during mid-Big 12 season. But with Coach Beard focused on the season, especially the NCAA tournament, things didn't really move forward until after we played in Minnesota. Sometime about that, at that point, I told Kirby that I wanted to adjust his contract. It wasn't something that he had even raised. And he was very gracious and said, I'm very happy with where I am and what I have. But there had been some adjustments made in the Big 12 that moved some people ahead of him, and I think he needs to be near the top. And so I appreciate...
well, he's done more than any other Big 12 coach recently, hasn't he? Maybe Kansas, but...
Well, across the board, I think if you compare programs, I wouldn't trade places with Kansas. And so, and also, if you look at what's going on in Texas, Texas was at the top. Compared to look at what Tech does, given the resources that he manages versus the achievements of Texas Tech. We can be very proud of Kirby's team. And he has a great group around him. Tony Hernandez, Judy Henry's been there for many years, and many others. And you see certain things publicly, what they do in terms of competition, but academically, they have never performed better.
Now, I've heard that, and you may have been the one that told me, but one of the big things that Beard wants and has seen at Texas Tech since he's been here is he wants the city and the school behind him. He wants to see crowds. He wants the United Supermarket Arena to be packed, loud, and he wants it to be a place that people don't want to play against Texas Tech.
That's true. I mean, and he's done an incredible job of engaging the student body, the fan base. That's one of his real talents. He wants this to be the toughest place to play, and I think in the Big 12, if it's maybe Kansas and us, Iowa State's very tough place to play.
Yeah.
But he.
There's something about Iowa State. They just have that. I mean, they're up and down sometimes, but man, they just fight hard.
You know, I went to graduate school at Indiana University, and where it's cold, basketball is important.
Yeah, they like to be indoors.
IU had 17,700 at every game. They could be playing somebody you never heard of, and that's up there. Basketball is a big deal.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, I do want to remind our audience we are talking with Dr. Lawrence Schovanec, the president of Texas Tech University. And if you have a question for the president, our text lines are open. Shoot us a question at 806-680-2790, and we will pass that along and maybe get you an answer. Time for a break at 8:15 here on KFYO Mornings with Dave and Matt. Back with more of Dr. Schovanec in just a moment. And we are back on KFYO Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin on KFYO, 8:21 a.m. Well, Mr. President, the Forbes rankings are out. How did we do?
Well, we went up. Otherwise, I wouldn't have mentioned it. There are many rankings out there, and some of them have increasingly been focused on what they call return on investment. They look at the net cost of a degree, earnings of your graduates, graduation rates, and things of that sort. So Forbes actually has two rankings. One's called their top colleges ranking, and then they have this ranking called best value colleges, and they only rank 300 schools in the United States. We were ranked for the first time about 3 years ago. Last year we moved up from 298 in the United States to 138, and then this year we moved up another 22 spots. And we're among publics, we're 72nd in the nation. But that's pretty good company. And I think what's important for parents to keep in mind is a ranking like that really looks at the value of what you get. And that's where Tech shines. We don't fare as well in something like U.S. News and World Report because they look at how much we spend in delivering the educational programs. Tech doesn't have the kind of budget that can compete with some of the other schools we're compared to.
I'll tell you what. I say this just because this was something me and my wife went into. You know, price-wise, Texas Tech and some of the other schools that my wife was looking at to get her master's degree at the HSC were very similar, but in the end, Texas Tech's name in and of itself, I said, look, if you truly want a new job somewhere else at any point in time, which she's not looking for another job, she's happy where she's at, but if it ever comes to the point that you do, the name Texas Tech is going to hold a lot more weight than a lot of these other universities she was looking at.
I appreciate you saying that, Matt. For one thing, HSC, and this is a point that President Mitchell makes a lot, they're near the top in terms of value and low cost, so they are indeed a great value. But the brand, it's worth a lot.
You know, you've got the Rawls School of Business that's just making a name on its own. I have a cousin who's a lawyer. He's a member of the Texas Bar Association. He comes to Tech to speak once in a while, and he was telling me that the Texas Tech Law School is extraordinary. He says it's by far the best one in the state, and he said it's renowned. And that's something I wasn't even aware of.
Jack Nellen, the dean, is doing a great job. Just yesterday, I had a Rawls College graduate in there who was coming forward with a proposal to engage students in a way that kind of prepares them for a certain niche in the industry. I heard last week from an alum who invested made a considerable gift to start an executive banking program in Rawls. And what I love about that is, with input from alumni, they can inform what we teach those students, making sure that we're giving them those kind of hands-on experiences that distinguish Tech, and they put money behind it. It's a big deal.
Yeah. Well, there's just so many. School of Music is another one that comes to mind. That is just, it's renowned. And, Tech has no doubt a name for itself nationwide.
And, the basketball experience kind of brought that to light. We know what a jewel we have out here and what a great place Lubbock is. And being on that national stage, it was awesome. And I've heard that from so many other presidents around the country. Everybody becomes your best friend when you're successful. Speaking of basketball,
not a bad thing.
It was Brandon Francis. And I apologize, Brandon, if you're listening. I don't know if he kind of doubt he is. Yeah.
Let's see. What we want to cover another topic or two.
There was one other bit of good news this week. In the fall of 2017, we achieved the enrollment benchmarks to be classified as a Hispanic serving institution. And then you have to go through a process where they authenticate those enrollment numbers, and then they certify you as eligible for applying for certain new federal funds. It's called Title III and Title V funding. And just this week, we were notified that all of that has now been done. And so faculty and other programs will have a new source of funds to go to for programs that relate to student success. And we're talking students across the board. An example of Title III funding would be a program we have with Amarillo College where they use Title III funding to build a greenhouse, and we have a horticulture program with them. And they do 2 years in Amarillo, 2 years here at Tech. That's the kind of programs money you can get from these programs, and it's a real opportunity for Tech.
Okay. Well, we've got just about. Okay, yeah. Let's wrap that up, Ed, because we've got to run. We're up against the clock. So always glad to have you.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, thank you for coming out.
Yeah,
it always goes.
That's
fast.
Dr. Lawrence Schovanec, Texas Tech president.